This is the Momentum Podcast.
One of the most important pieces of advice that I give entrepreneurs who are growing and scaling a company is don't ever collect a metric you don't intend to use. And you really need to look at the metrics, the KPIs, the information you're getting from your business as a way to make decisions. And far too many don't. I'm excited because on this podcast, we have Katie joining us again.
Hi, everybody. Excited to be here.
Because Katie and I were recently in a mastermind where we were all coaching an entrepreneur, and the entrepreneur that was being coached had a very typical problem for entrepreneurs or exhibited a typical challenge that entrepreneurs have. So I'll just give you a high level what was going on in the room. We were meeting with a business owner, had a really successful business, incredible talented entrepreneur doing so many of the right things. And unfortunately, in the previous 6 months from us sitting down together, their sales conversion rates had gone from mid 30%, which is healthy for a phone sales organization like this one was, to down to 30, then to 25, then to 20. And I think when we were meeting with them, it was somewhere between 15 and 18%. And Katie, I remember you got a little emotional at that point and started asking some questions.
Well, I think everybody was going in the room and we were trying to help kind of solve the problem. And what I was hearing was that there was an issue in the sales department, and really nobody had drilled down on that. So when it came to me, I said, hey, what you're telling me is that you're meeting every week on KPIs and that you're seeing that there's this drop from like 35% down to, I think it was like 14 or 15%. And you're not drilling in on that data. And so I think a lot of entrepreneurs will get in the habit and they're like, oh, I'm a good entrepreneur. I'm checking the box. I'm collecting my KPIs. But collecting KPIs or performance metrics are a tool. They're there to give you data. It's just like getting your labs drawn with your doctor. You're there for the data so you can respond to the data. Knowing that you have high blood pressure and that they're not doing anything about it is challenging for your health. Knowing that your sales numbers are dropping and not going and digging in and do something about it to see, what the challenge is a problem for your business. And so KPIs aren't, and performance metrics aren't, it's not the exercise of just collecting the data so that you can say, like, I'm doing the right thing as an entrepreneur. It's using them as a tool so that you can respond to them, so that you can, change your behavior based on what the data is telling you.
I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future. And instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be.
So when we were in this room, Katie started asking questions like, have you talked to the sales team? Have you talked to the sales manager? Have you looked at what he's doing? Have you looked at the numbers within the sales team? Have you talked to individual sales reps? Are you listening to any of the sales calls? You have a crisis here. Is anyone listening to those sales calls? And through asking those questions, Katie found out that no one had really talked to the sales manager. They had just looked at the numbers. They weren't recording their sales calls. And we live in Texas where single party recording is 100% legal. So they should have been. And that there really wasn't any investigation off of the KPIs. And so when you look at metrics or KPIs, I like to use metrics because key performance indicators is a term that's all over everywhere. And I really like metrics. To me, a metric is a number that shows you whether it's success or failure. Key performance indicators, the same thing. But I like to use metrics because we also use milestones as a way to measure what somebody is doing, which metrics are the numbers, milestones are what they're getting done. So I think, there's 3 points here that we want to share. Is one, you don't want to be a box checking entrepreneur, and we'll explain it in just a second. Second, KPIs are a tool that you can use to, and you need to respond to them. It's not just looking at them that is the outcome. And then third, this is a big one. Collecting APIs without acting on them is dangerous. So let's start by Katie. What do we mean by don't be a box checking entrepreneur?
I think that we all go to masterminds or we read a book and we get this idea and it's like, oh, I'm gonna, do my SOPs, or I'm going to collect my KPIs or collect my performance metrics. And it's like the act of doing the activity is the goal. But the challenge is that we don't respond to that activity. If you have a bunch of SOPs that nobody in your team follows, then, you're doing an exercise that's not providing any value or any process, efficiency in the business. If you're collecting performance metrics and you're not using them as a tool to respond to and change the behavior in the business, then you're just checking the box that it got done. You're not actually utilizing the tool to the fullest of its capabilities.
Yeah, and then, secondly, KPIs are a tool so that you can respond to them and respond to the data they provide. So, for example, if your sales conversions are dropping, typically, knowing what I know about having coached a ton of entrepreneurs with a ton of businesses and looked at a lot of sales teams, when conversions go down, typically it's because the process has been released. The script's no longer being used. The sales reps are getting overconfident. They're telling too many personal stories. They're relating rather than consulting with the person who's on the phone with them. And that will make your sales drop like a rock. However, if you're collecting KPIs and you're not listening to the calls, making sure the script's being followed, making sure the foundation of the sales team is there, then what you're really doing is making yourself feel like you're doing something. Like Katie said, it feels like you're being successful. You're checking the box. I collected KPIs, but the next step is really crucial. And then Katie, the last point that we definitely want to make is that collecting KPIs without acting on them is actually dangerous. Why is that?
Because you're not creating efficiencies in the business. You're not doing that. You're not responding to the KPIs in a way that are going to provide value to the business. Even if it could also be on the flip side. So maybe in marketing, something really responded well and you've collected these metrics that are showing that you're performing really well in an area. If you don't go and dig in on that, then you don't have something that you can repeat. So, whether they're, the performance indicator is saying, or the metric is saying, hey, we had a drop here, or we had an increase in sales. You can go and say, okay, we got a positive response. What was the activity that we did so that we can repeat that over and over and over again to grow our sales, to grow our revenue. And so when you're not responding to the KPI, you're not using them to the fullest of the capabilities and the reason why you're collecting the data in the first place.
And so there's 4 exits to a delegation. When we as entrepreneurs delegate what we're doing to something, a lot of people just think about people, but we actually see 4 exits to a delegation. You delegate to a person who's going to do the thing for you, to a project that's going to get the thing done for you, to a process where you fully document what you're doing so you don't have to do it anymore. It's delegated to a process, or a policy where if somebody's asking the same question over and over again, or you get the same question over and over again, you make it a policy. Or if there's something you want to stay in place long term, you make it a policy. Most delegations are a combination of these 4, and sometimes it's all 4. You have a project that creates a new process where you have a person that gets trained on that process, and then you create a policy that says we will always use this thing to get this done. And so you can use that same 4P framework when you're looking at issues with metrics. You can ask, is there a problem with the person who's getting this thing done? And so if it's a sales team, it's unlikely it's a person. It might be the sales manager, which we feel like it was in the case in the room that we were in. Second, you might ask, is the process still being followed? Has the process broken? Has the process changed? Is there something wrong with the process? Third, you can ask, has a project gone off the rails? Have we done something that has affected the success of the metrics we were previously getting? So in the case of a sales team, did we have a project that derailed the sales team? Did we change something somewhere else in the company that's affecting the sales team? And then the last one is policy. Is there a policy that's not being followed here? Like one of the policies we have in our company is we have a sales script, and you follow the sales script 100% of the time, and you stay away from too many personal anecdotes because it takes it out of a business conversation and makes it a let's get to know each other conversation. And we really want to consult with people and give them the outcome. And when I look at our sales department, we had a project to switch over our sales department from commission to non-commission. We had a policy that we are always going to use the same script and the same sales process. We documented the sales process. We documented the script so that it could be followed. And then we made sure that we had the right people in place that are willing to follow those things. And so for you, if you ever have a number that's confusing you, dig in, ask questions, and maybe even look at that 4P framework and ask yourself, just as a way of kind of investigating, is there a person who's gone off the rails? Is there a process that's not being followed? Is there a policy that needs to be updated or even put in place? Or is there a project needed here so that we can fix this? So if you're collecting numbers, if you're looking at measurement, make sure you're reacting to them in some way, or it's just the act of measuring, and it doesn't really make any difference. So what ended up happening in that story we started in the beginning?
He ended up digging into, what was going on with his sales team, and he had, a culture of entitlement going on in the sales department that was being led by the sales manager. So, and I think that the commission package was very commission rich. And so, young sales team that was making a lot of money. And so were coming in and they were fat and happy and unmotivated. And so he had to make some changes. And I think, he made the decision to do that, and it served him well.
Yeah, and it's already started to turn around the numbers there. They actually let go of the sales manager who for months had been blaming the issue on everything but not following the process, not managing the people, not enforcing the policies. And when they moved him out, he actually said he had seen it coming for a number of days. And so, I've known for months this was going to happen. And so when you hear that, you've made the absolute right decision, and it's time to move forward and stay in momentum. And so if you are managing a company, don't just follow the metrics, react to them and use them to make decisions, and you will see your company grow like crazy. And if you're ready to take your company to the next level and you want to understand the right frameworks and process and structure in order to grow your business predictably, take a minute now and go to simpleoperations.com, answer a few questions for our team, and we'll jump on a call with you to show you how we can help you consistently scale your 7-figure business to where you hit 8 figures. And if you're so inclined, you can go even beyond that. We help entrepreneurs do this all the time. We're one of the few organizations out there that has a roster of 7-figure businesses that have hit 8-figure and multiple 8-figure numbers. And we'd love to be able to talk to you. Simpleoperations.com.